But first, how often do identity warriors say to people like me, being embarrassingly white, you don't know what it's like to face racism? But I got to tell you, I sure do now. And not because of all the hate that I get for being a conservative, that's bad enough. But you try being a Victorian now. We're the lepers of the nation, carriers of the coronavirus. Across the country, Victorians banned, not welcome. No Victorians need apply. Not a single state will now take us. New South Wales is so desperate to keep us Victorians out, pestilential Victorians, that it sent an army, 1,000 police and soldiers, to the border to turn us back. Not in 100 years has that border been closed, not since the Spanish flu. But now on the Victorian side, well, this was a queue 4 kilometres long to get out of the state while you still could. The world hasn't seen anything like this since, East Germany put up the Berlin Wall. Now, the bloke who created this complete debacle, all Melbourne now locked down, people going broke, is Premier Dan Andrews. Now, this outbreak got out of the quarantine hotels that his government was supposed to be running. Unbelievable. I mean, quarantine hotels should in fact have the toughest controls ever. Virus Central, lock the door. But instead we hear claims that security guards, private ones for some reason, not police or soldiers or prison warders, these private guards were even having sex with the people they were supposed to be keeping apart. Don't know if it's true, but it's widely rumoured. They got the virus one way or the other and then they spread it. But you ask the Premier about any of these incredible allegations, or why he hired these amateurs for such a critical job. Well, Andrews has the same arrogant answer. Won't tell you. I'll leave that to an inquiry I've set up to tell you one fine day.
What went wrong?
Well, look, we've got a judicial inquiry to give us those answers.
Isn't that so useful? I can't tell you. Andrews actually knows exactly what went wrong, at least in the broad. He knows whose idea it was to hire those private security guards. And he could tell you right now about all that. He simply doesn't want to. But did you notice the Prime Minister today? Again, out there running a protection racket for this bloke. From him we just got this rah-rah talk about how we're all in this together.
It's happening in Melbourne now. Of course, there's always the risk it could happen in other cities, and every step is being taken to seek to prevent that wherever possible. But we're all Melburnians now when it comes to the challenges we face. We're all Victorians now because we're all Australians, and that's where the challenge is right now.
Oh, shucks. That sounds so good. Actually, Prime Minister, we're not all Victorians. I don't see Sydney locked down. I don't see Brisbane locked down. Not Adelaide or Perth or Hobart or even Alice Springs. It's just Victoria, which on its own managed to stuff this up so completely that Victoria alone is now getting advice from the Deputy Chief Medical Officer to stop ourselves from going crazy or contemplating serious self-harm.
What we would encourage all people to do is seek advice from those organisations that are so well known in Australia and that the Australian government has funded specifically for this purpose, Beyond Blue, Lifeline, the Black Dog Institute, amongst others.
Well, gee, thank you very much. But from that you can guess how bad this really is. Seriously, did you know that nearly 400 Victorians have already killed themselves this year? How many from the stress of bans like these? But that fear of what the lockup is actually doing to people should make all premiers think twice about imposing bans like Melbourne's now got again. The cost is just so terrible. It's not just money. And is this really then how we're going to react to each new breakout of this virus? Shutting down whole cities if there's a little breakout because, and You know, there's no vaccine yet invented. Maybe there won't be ever. I don't know. Is this how we're going to do it each time? But we do need to get some perspective here. We do need to calm down. For one, I'm not yet sure that this virus is getting completely away from the authorities. Yes, 191 new infections yesterday, that is bad. But that is after a huge number of tests, more than, or nearly 30,000 of them. You're going to find more people. Today, much lower, 134 new infections. So, you know. And even now, just 3 Victorians have died of this virus in the past month and a half. One man was in his 80s, one in his 90s. Who knows what other conditions they had. Now, I'm not denying, this is a nasty virus. It is worse than the flu. But Victoria has had 10 times more people die of the flu just about every single flu season, sometimes many more than that, without anyone demanding lockdowns. So maybe we do need to react a bit smarter, more targeted. For instance, does it really make sense closing down all Melbourne's restaurants all over again if they can instead maintain social distancing and have sanitisers on every table, that kind of stuff? I mean, Japan and Taiwan have allowed that all the way through, no problem. And wouldn't it make more sense to isolate just the vulnerable? Yeah. And, of course, quarantine, this time strictly, please, the sick, with a policeman at every door of the sick, if necessary, rather than imprison millions of the healthy. You know, we've got to maintain social distancing. I get that. Absolutely for it. We've got to maybe have masks made compulsory on public transport, things like that. But going the Andrews government's way, I don't know how anyone can keep affording that. I certainly don't know how anyone can trust them.